Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Dungeons & Dragons. Yesterday, I ran my first ever campaign as a Dungeon Master, and some people said they wanted to hear a little bit about the story that I created. So this game was a one-shot, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with D&D, a one-shot means it's an entire story in one game. Some games can last for months or even years. This one lasted for about 3 hours. My players in this campaign were my twin sister Zoe, my younger sister Jolie, my youngest sister Phoebe, and my dad. My twin sister and I have played Dungeons & Dragons before, but for my little sisters and my dad, this was an entirely new experience. Although I will say that Jolie has played Baldur's Gate 3, so she knows a little bit about Dungeons & Dragons. But anyway, on to the story. The game took me about a week to write. I started writing it on Wednesday night last week, and then we played the game on Wednesday afternoon this week. The story is about a group of adventurers who were thinking about giving up on being mercenaries because there were no jobs available. But then a shady figure approaches them in the tavern and says, "I want you to steal this artifact for me. I will pay you handsomely. It's a very easy mission." They end up walking through a forest and going through a swamp, and then they end up in this cave where on the top of a pedestal there is a teeny tiny little wizard staff. And they don't know why the shady figure wants this staff. And meanwhile, while they're walking through this cave, there's just the sound of a lot of frogs. And as they grab the staff, all the sound stops, their bodies hit the floor, everything goes dark, and they wake up in the bodies of bullywugs. This game was extremely homebrewed. So I sort of changed how bullywugs work. I know that bullywugs are usually the size of halflings, but I had this idea for bullywugs where instead of being the size of halflings, they were the size of frogs, and they have a charm on them, so humans are not really aware of this entire culture they've built. Or humanoids, I should say. I don't know. And when they wake up and realize they're bullywugs, they find another bullywug on the trail who's panicking, who reveals that the staff that they stole was a ceremonial staff. I came up with this story where 100 years prior, there was a battle between one main bullywug and a human wizard who tried to claim that land for wizards because there were magical resources in the cave and in the swamplands that were valuable to the wizards. I'm struggling to explain this even though it's my own story. Please forgive these jump cuts. But basically, I created a little festival for the bullywugs to do every year where they go to the highest rock in the cave, aka the pedestal where the staff was found, and they present the staff as an offering to their ancestors to bless them with protection for another year. And there is a rumor that the last time someone attempted to steal the staff, they were turned into bullywugs. So then the players are informed that they have until the end of the festival to return the staff and get their old bodies back. I originally made this game with 5 players in mind and had 5 pre-made character sheets. We did, however, only end up having 4 players, so I had to readjust some stuff in battles later to make it a little bit more fair. So our playable characters included Stanley the Barbarian, Morris the Rogue, Keith the Wizard, and Bethany, the fighter. Maybe one day I'll run a campaign where someone gets to play as Olive the Bard, but I gave them all silly, regular humanoid names because I thought it was kind of funny once they were turned into frog people to have very human names. A dear friend of mine, Fiona, helped me make all of these maps the night before we played the game so our players would be able to picture themselves in the forest, the swamp, the cave, and the final battle scene. While walking through the forest, our heroes fought some hawks because instead of doing typical fantasy monsters, I wanted predators that would go after frogs. Since these characters have a background of being humanoid, I wanted something that was a minor inconvenience to them to suddenly be terrifying. In the swamp, they fought a gator, and that's when I started to realize that, oh man, we really needed a 5th player. My players somehow kept getting the most unlucky dice rolls against the gator, mostly 3s and 2s. Luckily, I kept getting bad dice rolls for the gator and also kept rolling 2s and 3s. So that fight took a while. That fight actually took so long that my players started to feel bad for the gator. I had to remind them, the gator probably would have eaten them. They didn't care. They felt bad that they were beating up this gator for 30 minutes. I did feel bad for how long that fight took. I really was expecting there to be one more player, and I didn't think about how having one less player would impact that. But after that battle, the characters took a long rest, and I decided that that'd be a good time to take a 10-minute break, touch some grass, readjust the final fight. After the long rest, the characters walk through the cave, and it's the same cave they walked through before to steal the staff the first time. Except this time, now they're bullywugs and the charm has been lifted, they could see that there is a whole festival ground in there. There were carts selling food, there were stalls selling drinks, there were little games to play. We had a stage where there was a little bullywug band. I forgot to mention that at the end of the forest fight, there was a little frog tavern that they found where I had a little bartender named Frogathy. Once again, shout out to Fiona, she named him. And we created a little menu, and it had things like good berry juice and pond water and fruit fly pie, and all those things functioned as health potions. And the reason why I bring that up is because Frogothy was once again found at the festival serving drinks. So my players got to like say hello to him one more time, buy some more potions before the final battle. My players had to go up like a huge flight of stairs to get from the festival to where the staff was supposed to be returned. I wrote into the game that the spirit of that bullywug who saved that village all those years ago sort of guided them up that path to return the staff, and he was like motioning them forward, like just very relieved that they were returning the staff to where it belongs. And that's where our final boss showed up. Our final boss was obviously the shady figure from the tavern. He was really disappointed in the players for stealing the staff and then returning it. And we find out that the shady figure from the bar was the wizard that fought the bullywugs 100 years ago. And you may be wondering, how is he alive for this long? He's a human wizard. He doesn't live for 100 years. That's why we find out that this wizard wasn't like defeated, he was just cursed. And that the previous people who tried to steal the staff worked for him. So our final boss here like ripped off a mask, took off his cloak, and we find out that this entire time this shady figure was really just like 4 bullywugs in a trench coat. I was proud of myself for coming up with something that was both dramatic and silly. I think the players really enjoyed that. The final battle ensues. It actually went much smoother than the gator fight, and my players saved the day. They saved the bullywugs. They got treasure in exchange for returning the staff, and the treasure was far more valuable than the gold that the shady figure was going to offer. The bullywugs are cheering our players' names. The frog NPCs that helped them before are waving to them. And then this spirit of the bullywug like raises his hands and casts a spell. Everything goes dark, and the players wake up once again in their humanoid bodies, surrounded by unsuspecting frogs. And then I decided to have my players write their own epilogues. Jolie, who was playing Bethany, decided that Bethany was gonna become an assassin, because Bethany's whole deal is that she just likes swords. My dad, who played Stanley the Barbarian, decided that Stanley was gonna use his new fortune to build a hot yoga studio. Phoebe, who played Keith the Wizard, decided that Keith was gonna gamble away his life savings. And then he took a job at the hot yoga studio to pay off his debts. And Zoe, who played Morris, decided that Morris would want to live amongst the bullywugs. So Morris went back, became a bullywug, found a bullywug wife, and had a bunch of little tadpole children. And that's the rundown of the story. I had a lot of fun with my first attempt DMing. I really hope I get to do it again soon. And if you ever want to hear about future D&D stories, I guess just let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe so you can see more of my shenanigans, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye! Will not stay on my shoulders. I love having scoliosis.